Malignant Worthlessness is the third full-length album from Pissgrave, a Philadelphia, Pennsylvania-based death metal quartet who have kind of gotten known over the last 10 years for their focus on the riff, straightforward death metal, in most sense with some bestial death metal or blackened death metal, graced with very little accoutrement, nothing to really dress it up at all. It just centered on some gory covers and a lot of riffs. It was a little bit surprising to find that most of these musicians are actually from sludge and stoner bands, maybe a thrash band somewhere in the past, and none of their collective history had much to do with death metal in general when they formed back about 10 plus years ago. So their demo was a surprise at the time when it came out. It was an important moment in the underground for a lot of people, as bestial death metal and black death metal and war metal was a big idea at the time, catching a lot more popularity. And these guys had kind of a Deicide-esque approach to that, with a lot of dual vocal expression, rasping, and really obnoxious sounds on their debut, Suicide Euphoria, and that kind of set the standard for what came beyond that. A lot of people felt like they kind of went a little bit too polished on the first record. If you can believe that, a lot of people prefer the demo and its rawness, but for me, the pitch-shifted vocals of the demo were just kind of a detractor for my own taste, and I think that a lot of these songs got better when they recorded it later on, as we'll find on some of their other records. So for Posthumous Humiliation, that was a record where they kind of broke through and got more notice. Probably for the cover to start, it was pretty gruesome, and it got a lot of people looking at the band, at least appreciating the shock of it, if not the riffs over time. I reviewed the record back in 2019 and appreciated it. It had all the serious qualities of death metal that I'm looking for in terms of developing riffs, and I think that it pulled the band in the right direction for my own taste in terms of just focusing on what they're good at and hammering it out. If you're a fan of war metal, but you also appreciate straightforward death metal and you just want something edgier, this was the choice to make. But the space between albums kind of meant that the moment seems to have passed for a lot of that, and so expectations for this record are either they have you wild-eyed and crazed and ready for this sort of thing, or it's maybe it's not going to be as extreme as you expect. So we'll cut to a clip here. We'll get a sense for how this record sounds, and then I'll talk more about what I thought of it overall. So the previous record, the production values were really focused on the drummer kind of getting out a lot of big blasts, and the sound of the record was intense, very much rehearsal quality stuff in terms of just feeling a live death metal band play. It was obviously a studio album, it was produced, but it was reduced down to that sound, which was chaotic and aggressive. And much of that is repeated here, but the focus is more on the guitar tone and the vocals than it is on the drums, which take a little bit more of a back seat in the mix. And the vocals and the riffs really are what powers this record and carries it through. I think for me, there's a militance to a lot of their work that has me comparing it to Angel Corpse related projects, and there is some relation to like Abominate and their past, and you could tell that they appreciate that level of attack. And so where that matches up with today is somewhere between like the lo-fi aggression of early Portal, the first record in particular, and then something like Concrete Winds, which is kind of the main competitor for this type of sound in terms of what people are doing with it anymore that's interesting. And so what we find is that on this record, there's a lot of things that Pissgrave are doing to experiment with their whole gig in terms of incorporating maybe a beat or two in here, a little bit some gore grind kind of feeling moments, and they keep it straightforward, but they don't hesitate to switch things up throughout this very short runtime. So there shouldn't be that much to say about this record. It's extremely short, it's very focused, all the riffs pretty much kill. There's some that wander around a bit for my own taste, but really this is an obsession with the riff. It's a record that focuses entirely on it, and it's a grotesque and ugly sounding death metal record, and that's not going to be for everyone. For me, I appreciate when a death metal record sounds real, as in it was performed, rehearsed, and put together to be performed, and I think that that's what shines through here. Some of the ticks of their production and some of the lower fidelity elements of it are they don't do that much to make this feel more obscure than it already is. And I don't think the gore adds all that much for my own taste. But I know that a lot of people like these things, and for me, it's a high recommendation, mostly because I personally enjoyed it. I don't really know what the temperature is on this type of death metal right now. There's a lot of throwback gore grind happening. There's a lot of darker death metal in this vein happening here and there, but this is the band that still kind of stands out in this lane, and they still get a pretty good reaction from me every time I spin this record. So well worth checking out. It's a solid album. Go listen to it for yourself. It released on February 21st, and read my review and check out what I had to say about it.